Hello, my friend, and welcome to Something for Everybody. My name is Aaron Machbitz, and today is a solo episode of the podcast where I'm discussing how to manage feedback like an elite athlete. So let's jump right in. Here's the quote that's going to summarize everything that we talk about in this episode. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. Living under the weight of constant scrutiny and comparison teaches elite athletes not only how to excel in their sport, but also how to effectively harness feedback for continuous improvement. Learning to discern which feedback to embrace and which to filter out becomes essential for not just surviving, but thriving. And those lessons are equally applicable to all of us in every domain of life. But we're going to specifically learn how elite athletes do it so then we can apply it in our own life. So why is feedback so hard to receive? For most of us, feedback is hard to receive because when self-worth is tied to performance outcomes, it feels like, or feedback can feel like, a direct threat to our identity, as opposed to rich, enlightening information about how we can get better. Our identity is often narrowly tied to how we perform in whatever domain we are in. And so to protect ourselves, we often instinctively dismiss or minimize this feedback. But in doing so, we usually miss valuable insights that can help us grow and improve. Instead of focusing on progress and actively pursuing our targets, we become preoccupied with avoiding failure, which ultimately hinders our ability to achieve the success we desire. So we're lost in sort of this defensive response in recognition that feedback is really about the behavior, not the person. So an important question to ask potentially is, are you trying to avoid failure or approach success? Are you trying to avoid failure or approach success? Answering this question will help you identify how you might be receiving feedback and where you can tweak your identity. Is it performance-based or is it a purpose-based identity? Remember, identity is defined as your repeated beingness, not as what you do. Who are you being on a consistent basis? And those are the values that you stand for. That's a purpose-driven identity. So then, using the target of being the best at getting better, we can openly receive feedback, not as an attack on who we are, but as a valuable insight on our target, our goal, our mission, our purpose, our vision, whatever it is. And so that's an important distinction to make when thinking about receiving insight. So next, we're going to think about how elite performers manage feedback. One, they build a circle of advisors whose feedback they trust. The foundation of a high performer's feedback strategy is to make a commitment to getting better each day, be the best at getting better. So they let improvement be their North Star, which guides almost every action and decision. Elite performers recognize the benefit of having a team who can see their blind spots, hold them accountable, construct their practices and habits, and focus their efforts. To build a team that can provide clear, honest, and kind feedback about how you can get better, you identify that small handful of people whose counsel you trust. Remember, it really all goes back to building relationships. That is the cornerstone of a great life, of the good life, of a very well life, of a very purpose-driven life, is your relationships. And this council of people is about who you can build great relationships with and who you can trust to give you that honest feedback in times of need. Right? And so this council of people can be family members, friends, colleagues, mentors, or experts. You want to keep the list small and make sure that each person is committed to supporting you and protecting you. This is a very important endeavor when it comes to anything in your life. You need that sort of board of advisors, that counsel that you can trust to go to when you need to. So you want to ask yourself, who has your back? Like, really? who really gets you, not just the refined and sort of packaged version of you, but the straining, striving, and vulnerable version of you that's trying to figure out life as you go. Who's that, right? Who has fidelity to the truth? Who can count on you to be honest with? Like, who can you count on to be honest with you about really hard stuff? Who has lived a life you respect? You have to start asking yourselves these questions, and who fits in sort of this mold about who can you put in your council of trust or your board of advisors. And so the next after that, we want to try to separate or filter useful feedback from opinions, right? Opinion and feedback may appear very similar, but opinions primarily reflect the thoughts and perspectives of the giver, while feedback is designed to benefit and guide the receiver. So there's a big distinction there that we have to understand. Opinions reflect individual viewpoints shared to convey personal thoughts or feelings, and they're often unsolicited. In contrast, feedback is specific, based on close observations, actionable, and given to promote growth, typically in response to a request. So I know that the best performers in the world go out of their way to ask for feedback, and they set up things in their life that immediately give them feedback. This is what the best performers in the world do, and they take that feedback as a sponge, and then they filter it out to use what's best for them. But those that don't go out and seek feedback are either not willing to get better, think they're too good, or they're just worried about what they might hear. But again, the best in the world are trying to be the best at getting better, and the only way to get better and seek improvement and seek growth is to get the honest feedback that you need about your performance, your training, your diet, your sleep, all of that stuff that goes into being an elite performer. And so next, we got to think about managing our emotional response. Beyond your trusted circle, you are your own next best feedback loop. You are a better tuning fork than most people around you because only you know whether your thoughts, emotions, and physiology are working in harmony or in dissonance. So you are your best feedback loop. This awareness allows you to detect subtle shifts in your mental and physical state, providing immediate and accurate feedback on what is working and what is not working. So we can think about if we're in the midst of a game, right? You should be able to give yourself feedback immediately after the next play, after the next moment, based on if you were distracted, you missed the ball, you made a mistake. What can I do in the next pitch to respond best? Like you can see this with Major League Baseball pitchers, right? They throw 2 or 3 bad pitches in a row that sort of miss the zone, or they walk a guy. The best pitchers in the world, Clayton Kershaw, Justin Verlander, right? Guys have been doing it for so long, can make those immediate adjustments to get right back in the strike zone or right back where they need to with their foot or their release point, or whether they're breathing or their response, because they're giving themselves immediate feedback. They're their best tuning fork, and then they go and make that adjustment in real time. That's amazing. So emotions can distract and obscure the lessons embedded in your challenges and setbacks. To unlock this valuable information within your experiences, like the best performers in the world, you can learn to manage your emotions effectively. So you want to pay attention to what triggers your feelings and how they affect your thoughts and actions. When you encounter strong emotions, take a moment to pause and reflect. Instead of reacting impulsively, consider what the emotion is signaling and how it relates to the situation at hand. Shift your focus from the emotional turmoil, which is the noise, to the insights within the experience. That's the signal. Pay attention to the signal. Ask yourself what went wrong, what could be improved, and what insights can be learned. Like I said, this feedback is incredibly useful post-performance. However, the best in the world are able to use feedback immediately to improve for the next play, the next presentation, the next at-bat, the next inning, whatever the case may be. So having a routine or process is extremely valuable here. This is where training our mind becomes the tool that sets us apart from everyone else. So if you're not investing in the inner life, if you're not investing in your mental skills, then you're missing out, or you're leaving talent on the table that's untapped because you are not paying attention and training your mind. Think about all this stuff and how it relates to our mental skills, to receiving feedback, to using that feedback to be the best at getting better and to improve ourselves every single day. That's extremely valuable, extremely valuable. So next, we want to commit to applying the useful feedback we receive, obviously. Elite performers meticulously incorporate suggestions into their training regimens and strive to make tangible changes, setting a high standard for how they effectively use feedback. This commitment to action is what often distinguishes elite performers from others. Like, many people receive feedback, but very few people actually execute that feedback over and over and over again and take it as a gift. As a gift to them, not as an attack, but this feedback is a gift, and I'm going to use it and implement it and execute it to continually get better. Most people acknowledge the feedback, recognizing its value and even expressing intentions to change. However, they often fall short in consistent implementation of that feedback. This gap between intention and action can stem from various factors, including maybe a lack of a clear plan, insufficient motivation, or the discomfort of changing established habits. So really, to bridge this gap, develop a systematic approach, a routine, a process to incorporating feedback. Outline, specific steps to integrate the feedback into your routine. Keep a record of your efforts and improvements. Think about the words we're using here: efforts and improvements, not outcomes and results, but efforts and improvements. Regularly review your progress to see how well you are incorporating the feedback. Again, incorporating the feedback, not getting the right result. We have to think about the things that are fully in our control, and those are the things that we're trying to focus on day in, day out. Effort, improvement, progress, attitude, response, right? You want to make it a regular part of your routine rather than a one-time effort. If something isn't working as expected, be willing to adjust your approach. So now, with all this information, with a feedback strategy in place, you don't have to evaluate each piece of feedback that floods in. Recognizing the difference between critique aimed to tear you down and guidance meant to build you up consumes a lot of internal resources. It really does, because sometimes we don't know. Is this just like really harsh criticism, but there's like sprinkled feedback in there? Or is this like, it's pretty harsh, but the feedback is coming from a good place meant to build me up? And so, as we navigate through our lives, let's try and apply this elite athlete mindset on managing and receiving feedback. Let's be selective about the feedback we internalize and use it as a tool for personal and professional development. Let's remember to separate what we do from who we are. Let's remember to separate what we do from who we are, ensuring that while we strive for excellence in our daily lives, we remain grounded in our inherent, intrinsic worth and value. This approach doesn't just prepare us for the next competition or professional milestone. It equips us for the intricate, beautiful challenge of living. So thank you for tuning into that episode. The absolute best way to support and grow this podcast is just by sharing this episode with a friend. You guys are our best marketing tool. So send the link, the YouTube link, the Spotify link, the Apple link, whatever link, wherever you listen or watch, send it to a friend. They probably need this just as much as we all need this valuable information. So if you enjoyed it, send it that way. And all the links below to how you can support merchandise, Patreon, community, all the socials. If you want to send me a message, it's all linked below. So thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Lots of love. Cheers. Thank you very much for tuning into that episode. And if you enjoyed it, click right here for another full-length episode of the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe. But most importantly, above all else, please take good care of yourselves and others. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Cheers.